Well, guys, that was a race. The Austrian Grand Prix finished on Sunday, and it was certainly an interesting opening lap. Then kind of like dulled down a little bit during the middle, and then at the end got really fascinating before teasing us at the end. But yeah, it's finished. George Russell won the race. Congratulations to him. And we do actually have some talking points. And what I want to do is I kind of want to talk about a couple of things to discuss. And one of them, we'll go back to this at the end, right? And really, really drill down into a couple of teams. There's certainly a couple of teams I really want to talk about this, but we'll start with the big story, which is obviously George Russell winning. After winning the opening race, and it looked like he was going to do absolutely blitz the championship. It felt like he lost his mojo, and he's now won a race. And I guess there's sort of like two talking points this weekend, which is firstly what happened on the Saturday with George Russell, but then also, is it true? Has he got his mojo back? So let's start off with that incident that happened on the Saturday, which I believe was here. It was kind of insane. We were watching with a few friends the qualifying. We saw Max Verstappen go off, and we had the situation where it was Leclerc, Hamilton, I think was it Anthony and then Russell, or one of the two way rounds anyway. And then Verstappen went off, crashed off at the final. No, so it's the penultimate corner of the racetrack. And George Russell went not quite full speed around there, but decent enough speed. Certainly a decent enough speed that, you know, if this was any other race category, would feel a little bit not right. The problem is that they just had single yellows. They had double yellows later on, but single yellows to start off with. And I suppose there's a couple of things I kind of want to talk about in regards to this. Firstly is George Russell himself, and then secondly is the marshals, the FIA, around everything like that. Let's start off with George himself. As much as he followed the rules, I don't know if I feel comfortable with everything about it. Now, he says he didn't see the car, which I sort of get. I do, because at the end of the day, for a racing driver, they've got their peripheral vision. They're focused on the racetrack. It's all like they are zoning in. Sometimes they don't even see to the left and right of them. So I sort of get that. But it was yellows. There was an incident that happened. And whilst you could say he's sufficiently lifted, I'm yet to be decided on it. There's certainly a lot of debate and discussion around it, but I suppose ultimately what I'm saying is, if I was to put responsibility on this, I would kind of like put 10%, 15% on George Russell. Because the majority of my anger is with the FIA. Now, the pattern of these streams, you know how we talk about this. We've talked about this regularly, is don't care if it's entertaining or not. What matters most of all is that it's safe. We spoke about it certainly when it came to the Ollie Behrman incident and the crash that happened there, and the fact that that's what mattered the most, that it's the safest and everything like that. The fact that there was a car that was stranded off the circuit, that was going to have a driver get out and walk around it and have there being a risk that somebody also goes off, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about the fact that that was a single yellow. Because if that had gone wrong, that would have been awful. Really, really awful. So I think the FIA needs to have a good look at themselves of how they do their communication. I mean, is it a case of that they do a yellow flag when Verstappen's stranded in the car, then it's a double yellow when he gets out of the car, and it's being communicated by the stewards? Because I think somebody needs to do some like future looking into this of like going, somebody from the stewards. We all saw the crash, by the way. We saw it live, by the way. The F1 TV direction was actually good on the Saturday, where we basically cut to Verstappen as soon as, just before he lost control. So the stewards had every great view of what was happening, where Verstappen was going. And they should have pressed the button. And that annoys me that they didn't. I don't know what it is. It feels like we're in the Netflix era of Formula One. And by the way, I'm not having a go at Netflix. I'm not having a go at Drive to Survive fans. I'm not having a go at anyone like that, right? But it feels like the FIA and F1 stewards have reacted to it and have basically stopped being referees and start being this like entertainment merchant. Almost that thing of, I should put in a double yellow, but what, that ruins the entertainment, doesn't it? Like, stop it. It's entertaining, full stop, without your involvement. Just let it play out, So yeah, I feel like this should be raised in a driver's briefing, everything like that. And once again, it's not pointing fingers at George Russell, and it's not pointing fingers at Mercedes. It's pointing fingers at the FIA for what they did in this situation. So that's how we see it. But now comes to the second point about George Russell himself. Has he got his mojo back? And what I would say to that is not quite yet, but potentially. What do I mean by that? In any other sport, when there is a individual or a team that has a losing patch, a losing streak, where they don't seem to have their mojo, they are going to struggle, right? And their first win is probably going to be scrappy and a struggle. Like I say, whether it be a football team, whether it be a driver. And this was a scrappy win for George Russell. He wasn't necessarily the fastest driver on the circuit. In fact, if it hadn't have been for Verstappen when it came to the tyres, Verstappen could have won it. If Antonelli hadn't messed up his first lap, he would have won it, right? Because Verstappen and Antonelli were faster than George Russell on track, no doubt about it, right? So he wasn't the fastest, but that's fine. Scrappy wins normally can start the streak going. What matters most of all now is Silverstone. If George Russell is still struggling in Silverstone, then we've got to be really careful before saying he's got his mojo back. Like if we're in a situation where he is just ahead of Antonelli by like a second or something like that, or is won't be tied in behind, then this was a blip for Antonelli more than it being the start of something special for George Russell. So just be careful on this one. Just be careful on this one. Now, before I talk a bit more about the race, I wanted to talk about one of the teams, the team that is somehow challenging, which is Ferrari. Ferrari in Canada did really well. Podium for Hamilton. In Monaco did fantastically well. podium for Hamilton. Of course, in Spain, Hamilton won. Ferrari on a roll. Yeah, I know Leclerc's being left behind. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But this race, 5th and 7th. 5th for Hamilton, 7th for Leclerc. Should we be worried? Is that it? Is that it for Ferrari's performance? Nothing more to come from it? Well, I'm going to say no for now. And there's two reasons. Firstly, Austrian Grand Prix is Ferrari's bogey track. They are better in the corners, but the Red Bull Ring, the Austrian Grand Prix at Spielberg, has 3 straights. 3 long straights, probably even more, right? It is insane. It's high-speed fun. All about the acceleration. So, probably going to have a similar sort of thing at Silverstone, although not as strong. So it could just be a difficult couple of weeks for Ferrari. But the other thing is the fact that this was a heat wave race. If you've been in Europe this past week, it was ridiculous. We are talking 35, 38, 40, 41 degrees to be dealing with. Now, what has Ferrari's strength been? Getting the tyres warmed up quicker than anyone else. Being racy at the start. But that was an advantage here, because everybody's tyres were well warmed up because of the track, because of the air. So that wasn't a problem. But, yeah. What's that going to mean? Higher degradation of tyres. The strategy they put Lewis Hamilton on, I think, was them trying to fix things, but it didn't work, so I'm not going to blame them for that. But, yeah, it was just struggle fest. Of course, they qualified well, but racing, not so much. So, we're back to not necessarily back to the drawing board. I think we might end up with better Ferrari performances over the next few weeks. Possibly not at Silverstone, but we've got some good handling tracks for Ferrari to have some fun with. There's one other team I want to talk about as well, and I haven't really got pictures for them, but they are near the bottom. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. I want to talk about Aston Martin, because I think it's sad and a little bit comical that Alonso just cannot catch a break with the Honda engine, can he? It's insane. Goes to McLaren when they're decent, and then all of a sudden they've got Honda engines and their GP2 engine, and it feels like we've got... Well, it's not... It feels like we've got a GP2 engine. They have a GP2 engine. They are slower than Formula 2 cars. And Alonso is keeping a smile at the moment. I know they've got upgrades, but they need to sort this out. One or two things needs to happen. Either Alonso needs to jump ship to another team, maybe Alpine, or he just needs to leave the sport. That's not to say that Alonso's a bad driver, but it does seem to be the case that when Alonso leaves, that's when Honda go, ooh, we need to actually do our jobs. We need to actually make an engine. You know? Maybe. Just maybe. Look, in terms of my preferences, people know my comments, my thoughts on Lance Stroll. So on that side, it is comical to see Aston Martin fail, but I do also want to see Alonso back. Even just getting some points. You know, doing what the Racing Bulls are doing, which is incredible. Doing what the Audis are doing better than the Aston Martin. The Cadillacs are doing better than the Aston Martin. This is scary stuff we're experiencing. But yeah. There's one other thing I want to talk about here, which is the Austrian Grand Prix itself, right? Because we had something that happened. And I want to talk about the cameras. Now, I want to start off with the positive. Let me do a little tweak here. Bear with, because I want to show you guys what we saw. That was so enjoyable. Perfect. I think that'll do it. Yes, perfect. So we saw this absolutely giga drone shot. It was brilliant. We got to see this quite a lot, which is this like sort of, it was coming from and basically just following the cars around, and we got to see this, and it brought some great action shots. Like, it's one of those, like, we're seeing it multiple times. The first time we saw the McLarens swarm Kimi Antonelli on this shot was insane. It was hilarious and brilliant. I was like going, we need to see more of this. Maybe a drone at Maggots and Beckett's, for example. Something like that. Because it was brilliant. And I want to give props to F1 TV before I start shouting at them. I want to give props to F1 TV for doing this, because this was ingenuity and allowed us to see something different, something fun. You know, brilliant, fantastic. And then we had the other shot. The infamous fan shot. The one where Isaac Hadjar was going to get past Charles Leclerc. And then it cut to a camera that showed the back of someone's head looking at the corner. Why? Why did you have to ruin it? Look, the F1 TV direction itself was poor on Sunday. There were things we were missing. Verstappen and Hamilton battling again. We want to see World War III, guys. Come on, let us see it. But, yeah, like, just everything else would have been pass it under, sweep it under the carpet. We'll deal with it. Well, just do better. But that fan shot was terrible. Well, I need to stop seeing fans. I don't want to see fan shots anymore. We're here to watch a race. You want to do celebrity shots and fan shots? Do that before the race and after the race, not during the race. Because this is what we're here to see. If that's what the fans are here to see and that's what we're here to see, then why the hell is no one seeing it, So, give us more of this. Give us less of the crap that happened when it came to that fan shot, alright? Because that was ridiculous. But anyway, those are my thoughts that I wanted to get when it came to the Austrian Grand Prix. We are heading straight into another Grand Prix. We've got the Silverstone Grand Prix this weekend. See what happens. We've got some special liveries. I've just seen McLaren's special livery, which looks insane. I love it. Williams livery, which looks meh. But Silverstone Grand Prix is always bound to deliver and give us some fun. Looking forward to seeing that. Looking forward to seeing your reactions to this video. So please feel free to like, share, to comment, to subscribe, and to take care.